Welcome to our quick guide about limited companies and the deadlines that you have to comply with as a company director. As a director of a limited company, there are loads of rules and regulations you have to comply with. Not least of all are the deadlines, and actually most of those rules are driven by deadlines. So what are they, and what are the potential penalties if you happen to miss any of those deadlines? To start with, most deadlines are driven by what's known as the accounting reference date. And this is usually the last day of the month in which you incorporate or register your company. So, for example, if you register your company on, say, the 16th of June, then your accounting reference date for future years will be the 30th of June. Now that means that your company's financial year will run from the 1st of July to the 30th of June the following year. Now you can change those dates, but we'll talk about that maybe another time. The first thing to think about in terms of returns and deadlines is the annual return. The annual return is required by Companies House and it has to be completed and submitted online within 28 days of the company's year end. The return confirms things like shareholdings and who the directors are, addresses and various other bits of information. It's a statutory document, which means it has to be done. And for something that's so simple to do, the fines are pretty hefty, all the way up to being the company being dissolved if it isn't submitted, the annual return, and in extreme cases a £5,000 fine as well. So it's worth doing, and it takes usually about 10 minutes to complete. The second thing to think about after the annual return has been completed are the annual accounts for the company. Now sometimes these two things get confused, the annual return and the annual accounts. They are two separate things. And it's the director's responsibility to submit accounts for the company to both HMRC and to Companies House within a certain period. Now for the accounts of the company to be submitted, it's 9 months. So for our company that we talked about earlier, where the accounting reference date was the 30th of June, you've then got July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, to the end of March the following year to submit the set of accounts. Now, at the same time as submitting the accounts, 9 months after the year end, the company has to pay any corporation tax that's due, usually, if there is corporation tax to be paid. Interestingly though, the corporation tax return, the CT600, that's the tax return for the company, doesn't have to be submitted to HMRC until 1 year after the company end. So you can submit money to HMRC, but not tell them how much you're submitting until a few months later. Now in reality, we would usually do that at the same time because it simply makes sense to do that. There's just one more thing to think about when we talk about the CT600, the corporation tax return. And that's that the CT600, that return that we do, can only cover the period of a year, 365 days. So that means in the first year of the company, it's very rare that a company actually gets set up on the last day of the month, the accounting reference date. It's usually, in our example here, the 16th. So for the first year only, a company has to submit 2 corporation tax returns. First one covers the first year, which in this case would be 16th of June to the 15th of June. The second one then covers the period to the accounting reference date, which would be 16th of June to the 30th of June. So in the first year only, a company has to do 2 corporation tax returns, 2 CT600s. So it's the director's responsibility, as I mentioned before, to hit those deadlines, to make sure that the documents are submitted to either Companies House or HMRC or wherever else. So it's really important that you make a note of the deadlines. Now HMRC will write to any new company director fairly soon after the company is opening with a list of important dates. And so do make a note of them. Of course, in our opinion, it's better that you get your accountant to do it. So if you've got an accountant, make sure they've got all those dates for you.